Anthony Pettis versus Alex Morono takes place this weekend to headline the prelims of UFC Fight Night Vegas 17, Thompson versus Neal. That's how stacked UFC Vegas 17 is at the end of the year. Anthony Showtime Pettis is on the prelims, and he's against Alex Morono. It's a very good fight. It's not the big fight that we usually see Anthony Pettis take on in his career, but then again, neither was the Diego Ferreira one, but then he bounced back against Donald Cerrone in the welterweight division. And I'll tell you this, as of his recent performances, other than against Nate Diaz, where he broke his foot on Diaz, he's had really good showings at 170 pounds. So far, he's 2-1 in the weight class with wins over Donald Cerrone, who took Leon Edwards to a close decision as well that was very competitive, and also Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who took the champion at the time to a draw. Anthony Pettis' 170-pound resume is actually a little bit better than you think when you first look at it, and he's not in a bad situation here. Coming off a win against Donald Cerrone, if he increases that to a 2-fight win streak, he'll then be in a position to call out big names in the division. I think that's exactly why Anthony Pettis has taken this fight with Alex Morono, because he knows you've got Nick Diaz coming back, you've got Nate Diaz coming back as well. I'm sure he wouldn't mind running it back with Pettis, especially because he's already beaten Pettis as well if he can't get that Masvidal rematch. There's a bunch of new names that are about to make their reappearance, in some cases, in that welterweight division. And I think Pettis knows with a good finish here over Alex Morono, he will be in a great position on the microphone to earn himself one of those big names and maybe even turn on his own Duke Rufus training partner at one point in Tyron Woodley. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. I really am looking forward to this one. I do believe that Anthony Pettis is going to come away with the win against Alex Morono. I know Alex Morono had a great last performance against Reese McKee. It was a good performance. They both had amazing output in the fight, a great war back and forth. Both guys landing big shots, but every single round it just seems like Alex Morono was landing way more than Reese McKee. 61-39 round 1, 68 to 51, round 2, 47 to 34 in round 3. It was a clear 30-27 unanimous decision to Alex Morono. His cardio looked good. His power looked good as well, although he couldn't really finish Reese McKee. But Reese McKee's, he's a tough guy. Tough guy. He showed that in that fight against Alex Morono. At 170, he seems to take damage a little bit better. Alex Morono, I don't see what I need to see from a guy who's going to beat Anthony Pettis at this point in his career, especially after his performance against Donald Cerrone, because I feel like Anthony Pettis at this point at 155 is such a completely different man than when he steps out there at 170. In his 170-pound fight with Donald Cerrone, by the way, I know at the time of watching that fight, I thought Donald Cerrone won. Here's my defense. Earlier in the year, we were still getting used to the fact that takedowns don't mean anything unless Moreno gets them, of course. We are still getting used to the fact that takedowns don't mean anything in fights, okay? At the start of the year, I wasn't used to that yet. I saw Donald Cerrone get takedowns at the end of the first and second round and thought to myself, hey, Donald Cerrone won the fight here, right? 2-1. However, looking back at that fight, I can see how Pettis landed the better shots. The whole judging system of MMA has changed over this year very drastically. And now when I look back and watch that fight with Pettis and Cerrone, I like Pettis winning that fight 2-1. I don't think it was that bad of a robbery, and I've seen this with many fights before. When you go back and watch them again, now that we've changed the way we judge fights with the grappling and how much it's worth, we kind of see things differently. The same thing happened when I watched back Jones versus Gustafsson. I used to think so much of Gustafsson taking down Jones for a split second before Jones popped right back up. Now I don't see anything in that whatsoever, so I actually scored it for John Jones when I went back and watched it. Anthony Showtime Pettis is a very dangerous martial artist at 170. I'm looking forward to seeing him go out there. And as I said before, the 155-pound Pettis is a different man. Since his Chiesa fight at 155, he has not looked the same. And you see that in his Tony Ferguson bout. He looked a little bit shelly up, broke his hand in that bout, doesn't seem as tough as he is at 170. You saw in the Wonderboy Thompson, like he just waded through Thompson's shots to get to his leg kick on the rear leg of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to try and get past whatever Thompson was throwing at him. He was accepting a broken nose, taking straight shots right in the face just to get to his objective, and it was a different guy against the likes of Tony Ferguson, a different guy against the likes of Diego Ferreira. The Diego Ferreira fight is the best case I've seen of this with Anthony Pettis, when he just kind of shells up and accepts it at times. I think the weight cut to 155 is so bad for Pettis. it's just not worth it to him anymore. You see him nowadays at 55. He doesn't look as shredded at 55 anymore. He looked a little bit more soft and flabby, kind of how like Aldo's body changed from a McGregor fight. Maybe he was doing more cardio because he noticed that he slows down in fights against Tony Ferguson at 155. Or maybe he just... There's been an assumption as well in the UFC history books that Anthony Pettis was on roids. And if he was, then he might be the most successful guy off of roids that was once on them in the UFC history. I don't think he was. Don't think there's enough evidence to say that he was. However, some people are making the assumption, and they are free to make that assumption. I am all aboard making assumptions about these fighters because USADA is getting less and less trustworthy by the day. However, Pettis at 170, there's a difference, man. I saw it in the Cerrone fight. You see it in the Thompson fight. There's more testosterone in his system, it feels like at times. At 155, he's gone vegan. And at 170, he's a meat eater. You know what I'm saying? There's just a different kind of to whatever he's doing. Like, he'll grit down. He'll laugh when he tags Donald Cerrone with a big shot. He'll nod and look real proud of himself if Cerrone lands a good shot on him and he takes it well. That wasn't the guy I saw against Fahea. It wasn't the guy I saw against Tony Ferguson. I like Anthony Pettis' chances in this fight against Alex Morono. Skill-wise, I think he's a better striker. I think Pettis would completely dismantle Rhys McKee in about, probably finish him with a body kick TKO. However, I think Donald Cerrone could beat Alex Morono in that welterweight division. When you look at the success that Donald Cerrone had against Nico Price, and then you look at the Nico Price success against Alex Morono where he KOs him real bad, and pretty much easily as well in that fight, I think it's very clear to say there's a different level of striking that we're seeing here, and Pettis, in my opinion, sits at that top level of striking of all the names I've just mentioned to you guys. I think Anthony Pettis is a real legit guy at 170. I don't see him beating the top guys in a division that can grapple. I think grappling is his worst enemy, but listen, Alex Morono doesn't grapple, and not only does he not grapple, listen, I know he grappled with Rhys McKee. He didn't do it too effectively, and he doesn't really go for them too often. He's not like his game is to get guys to the ground. He's majority of the time a striker. You know, if you wanted to get someone to the ground, Chaos Williams would have been a good idea to try and get that one to the ground early rather than swinging with him like an idiot. But still, got KO'd there. It's another KO in his career that he's had, which I do worry about. He did look good against Rhys McKee, but it is Rhys McKee. I just feel as though with Pettis, it's almost like he's so fearful of the takedowns at times, it doesn't allow him to be who he can be. In certain fights, like he goes a bit more boxing heavy, he doesn't throw as many kicks. I think we saw in the Cerrone fight and other fights where, like in the Jim Miller fight as well, when Pettis knows he can't be out-grappled or taken down, he is so comfortable to do whatever he wants in the feet. But when he is worried about being taken down, it's a different kind of Pettis, the Fahea Pettis, the Nate Diaz Pettis, the Tony Ferguson Pettis. There's a different situation, the Rafael Dos Anjos Pettis, the Eddie Alvarez Pettis, the hesitant Pettis, doesn't want to invest in any shots because he doesn't want to give up position. In Alex Morono, I don't think he has that same opponent. I think he's going to be more free on the feet to do as he wishes, and I think he's going to have a very fun time striking with Alex Morono. I don't see him getting a finish. Even though he finished Wonderboy Thompson, which sounds crazy to say, I don't see him getting a finish over Alex Morono. I see him piecing him apart for 3 rounds, 30-27, Anthony Pettis doing more than enough in the striking realm every single round. Basically doing what Alex Morono did to Rhys McKee to Alex Morono in this bout. And if he does win, you got a real nice time on your hands. He's the shorter guy, longer reach here. If you look at the accuracy, he's got higher striking accuracy as well. And listen, you can talk about the stats and how they don't really mean anything, but in this case, Anthony Pettis has been doing it against much higher level competition opponents, and that's something I don't think Anthony Pettis gets credit for in his career. You can go through every single Anthony Pettis fight in the UFC. They are all such savages from like the beginning of time. Like ever since the Benson Henderson fight in the UFC, that was in WEC, but let's go into the Ultimate Fighter, the headliner. Clay Guida. Good name at the time, he gets the job done there. Jeremy Stevens, he takes on after that, wins that fight. Joe Lozon at the time was a really good win for him to get. Now you're looking at the more other names on the resume. There's no easy bouts here at the time that he fought them. Donald Cerrone, Benson Henderson, Gilbert Melendez, Rafael Dos Anjos, Eddie Alvarez. On a 2-fight win streak, who do you take on next? I know, says Pettis. Edson Barboza at lightweight. In 2016. That's who Pettis takes on in his career. Then he goes in there against Charles Oliveira. Gets the job done against him in 2016. That win kind of looks really good right now. I'll be honest with you guys, seeing as what Oliveira just did to Ferguson. Not the same Oliveira I'm aware, and not the same Pettis. However, The names on his resume speak for themselves. Max Holloway, Jim Miller, Dustin Poirier. Miller got slid in there a little bit. Michael Chiesa, right now in the welterweight division. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know if I see that fight going much different. Chiesa was much bigger than Pettis at 155. I think the only one who's going to have an advantage of it being at 170 is Pettis having a bit more size on him, rather than having to drain his own weight cut to 155. I think it might be an equal looking fight at 170 between Pettis and Chiesa, and we saw what Chiesa was able to do against RDA. Ferguson bout, then Stephen Thompson, Nate Diaz, Diogo Ferreira, Donald Cerrone again, now Alex Morono. It's a nice little breather for Pettis. I think he'll get a 30-27 decision. Call out Nick Diaz on the mic, with all respect, I'm sure. Mention that he fought Nate Diaz before and he wants to get the taste out of his mouth with a big win against Nick Diaz. And honestly, I said this building up to this. Look at the rankings right now in the welterweight division. If Jeff Neal loses to Wonderboy Thompson, Anthony Pettis could finish this weekend at number 10 in the welterweight division. Look at all of those names. Khamzat Chimaev doesn't even belong in the top 50. Let's be real. He hasn't beat a single welterweight coming off a win. He's only beat one UFC welterweight, and that's a guy who was signed there on short notice specifically to fight him. Moving on, though. Robbie Lawler can be shifted down, and Pettis is already above him and Bilal Muhammad at number 12. Jeff Neal, if he loses, he'll slide down. If Luque doesn't fight too much and doesn't get a fight soon, I could see Pettis jumping above Luque in the rankings as well, and maybe even Magny. When you look at the guys that Pettis has beaten, they're really helpful names on his resume. He has a win against Michael Chiesa only a couple of years ago, who's currently ranked number 8 in the division. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson beat Vicente Luque after Pettis beat Wonderboy Thompson. Like, Pettis might jump up to number 9 here, and we could really mess up the entire division, and Pettis has some real clout because he's got a lot of good names that are helpful for him to jump up the division. And listen, even if Thompson loses, I could see Pettis having a good time rising up there as well, but we'll see. Let's not get too crazy here, talking about jumping over Stephen Thompson, but still, you get my point. Pettis could be sitting at number 10 or 9 in the rankings after this weekend, depending on how the other fights go on the card, I'm sure. Then he'll be looking to call out a big name. And if Nick Diaz wants to jump right back into the top 10 with a approachable matchup in Anthony Pettis that his brother just beat and has an understanding on how to fight Pettis, I think that'll be a good fight to make. Anthony Pettis versus Nick Diaz, headliner of a fight night, feature fight of a pay-per-view, co-main event of a pay-per-view, I don't even mind. Anthony Pettis versus Nick Diaz would be an amazing fight. Very winnable for Nick Diaz as well, in my opinion. A good style matchup, especially if he gets it for 5 rounds. If Nick Diaz is in any way somewhat what he used to be in terms of cardio and his style and stuff like this, and his chin as well, 5 rounds with Pettis, it's a good fight. Pettis might break his foot on you, and then we're looking at some real good stuff. I just don't think Morono has it in him to outstrike Pettis over 3 rounds. I also don't like that Morono's turning around so quickly, because I did mention that he looked really good in his fight with Rhys McKee, but I will also mention this. He looks really good in his fight with Rhys McKee, but he took a lot of damage in that fight with Rhys McKee. You're talking about eating 124 significant strikes over 15 minutes. Now you're turning right back around to go in there against Pettis, who's had time off, who seems to have had a spiritual awakening by his interview with Ariel Helwani as well, had a mental coach with him. Apparently he's all doing better now since his fight before the Cerrone one. He's took the Cerrone fight, won that one. He's 1-0 when he's mentally undefeated, I guess. He's learned the Sean O'Malley approach. Anthony Pettis gets it done, 30-27, calls out Nick Diaz on the mic. Let's get things moving. I don't know how this is the headliner of the prelims. I don't know how. I really think that Julian Robertson versus Taylor Santos should not hog a main card slot over Anthony Showtime Pettis. But what do I know? You know? Nothing, I guess. Right, UFC? You fucking disgrace. Click that button up there. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.